Welcome, friends. I have a lot to talk about in this video. So today's video is titled Trump's Financial Crimes Unearthed. And I think you'll find this very interesting. And before I get to those charts, I want to make sure that I give you all the information I need to give you, which is I'm moving this weekend. So this is the last time you'll see me in this apartment in Grand Junction. And I will be nomadic for a while. So I'll be taking you on the road with me and doing some vlogging. So if you're interested in that, you can always go to my Freedom channel, and there's a link in the description box below. Also, if you're interested, if you have questions and want them answered, please come over to my Patreon channel. We meet almost every Friday at 4:30 p.m. Mountain Time. And if you can't make that time, or if you still have a question, then just let me know in the comments on Patreon, because I answer all of my patrons' questions when I'm on Patreon. Okay. So if you have a burning question, you're just desperate to get it answered, please come over to Patreon. 100% I guarantee I will answer all of your questions there. All right. And you can find the link in the description box below. So the last thing I wanted to mention, by the way, if you want a reading, you can still get them even after I'm leaving here. I'm still going to be doing readings, so you can always find a link below. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe and ring the bell to make sure you get notifications of all my videos. So getting to the interesting news, and by the way, I actually predicted this on my Patreon channel. There's still a video there if you want to find it. But I predicted that Mitch McConnell, this would be his very last ever term. Okay, this is his last term. I predicted that on my Patreon channel. And I also said that he may not even complete this term. And I just saw some news that, and it looks like he's not even going to complete this term. So I was like, whoa, got that one right. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. And if you're interested, you can always go to Patreon and look for that video. All right, so let's go on and look at the charts for Trump. And so I'm going to pull up those charts, and I'm actually going to start with February 17th because I had mentioned this in one of my more recent videos that you can still find on my channel on the front page. At the top of the page, you can go back and see. I was talking about February 17th was going to be extremely important because of the fact that Saturn was making an exact square to Uranus and making a T-square to his Pluto, which is his sense of power and wealth. And so the 7th house is the house of long-term meaningful relationships and open enemies. The 10th house is your house of career and where you're publicly known and famous. Okay, I mean, that's your house of fame. So everything that's public is in the 10th house. So with the moon conjunct Uranus at that time, there was some news that would be revealed that would be probably pretty shocking related to the past, because Mercury was retrograde in conjunction with Saturn in that T-square. And also Mars was conjunct his midheaven, which is, an indication of the most public information revealed. And Mars rules his 9th house of legal cases, where he has Chiron, this wounding. So this is all really interesting because I said that something really important would happen either on the 17th or very close to the 17th. And there actually were a number of things that happened. I'm not going to list them all. I talked about them on my Patreon channel, but I'm not going to list all of them. I'm just going to mention what I think is the most important one, which is that the Supreme Court dismissed his case. They basically even declined to even look at it. And they said that his taxes need to be turned over to the Southern District of New York. Okay, so that was official. His accountant had to turn over all of that documentation to the Southern District of New York so that they could then begin their case for prosecution. Of course, they've already begun, but this was a very important piece that they were waiting for. So now they can really begin to move ahead with that prosecution. This is huge. In the tradition of Donald Trump, it was huge. So, wow. Okay, so, but there's another one I got right. So, that was just really, really a big deal. And so there's other steps, obviously, that need to unfold. And so I wanted to show you some really important alignments that I think you'll find interesting, and why I've named this video Trump's Financial Crimes Unearthed. Okay, so here's the thing. It has a lot to do with Pluto. Obviously, it was kicked off with the alignments on February 17th. But I think some people may be concerned that, you know, Trump might run for president again in 2024, like feeling scared that he might be president again. But I predicted he will never be president again, and I stand by that prediction 100%. Okay. So what I want you to understand is, you know, like if you're looking at the news, if there's something that's making you nervous, like his speech at CPAC or something like that, and you think, oh, you know, some people say he's still the leader of the Republican Party and that makes you nervous, don't be nervous. Okay. He's over. I've said it a million times since he lost the election, and I'll continue to say it as many times as necessary, because from looking at the alignments, I know it's already a fact. He is over. He is completely washed up. It's just a matter of time, then it will be obvious to everyone. So we, of course, saw a really important, you know, Supreme Court decision that came, I think it actually may have come exactly on February 17th, but if not, it was very close to that date. And he's been arguing with Mitch McConnell and Karl Rove, and, you know, he just continues to bully people and call them names. But that's what someone who's scared and desperate does. He's scared and desperate. He is going to be buried in lawsuits for the rest of his life. Okay. And not only is that going to pretty much block him from running for president again, but also it's going to deplete his finances. And it costs a lot of money to run for president, and he will not be able to, you know, he will not have the financial resources to run for president. So these are the biggest reasons why I know that it's absolutely not going to happen ever again. So you don't have to worry. He'll never be president again, and he won't run for any other office. So he has virtually no power. You know, he tries to pretend like he has power, but he has virtually no power, and it'll just get more and more obvious as time goes by. So let's talk about this thing about his financial crimes being unearthed. Well, that's what Pluto does. Pluto is the power of it's the planet of great power and wealth. Okay. Now it can do good things for you, but it also makes sure that it removes any corruption from your life. Okay. And it unearths your secrets. So if you have been unethical and lacked integrity and done things that were immoral, unethical, illegal, anything like that, anything corrupt, Pluto will unearth that. That's what it does. And even more so when it's in Capricorn, because Capricorn is an earth sign. Okay. Pluto is the god of the underworld. That's why Pluto goes underneath and unearths things. It brings things up to be visible, especially corruption. Okay. Well, at the time of this alignment on February 17th, when the Supreme Court made that decision, and his tax information and all the other information his accountant had to be turned over to the Southern District of New York for prosecuting him, Pluto was making an exact opposition to his Venus in his 12th house. Okay. So the impact that it has in opposition to his Venus is that Venus rules money and wealth and finances and relationships, especially relationships with women, okay? And in the 12th house of secrets, that means secrets being revealed. So again, we see this this motif of things being unearthed, things being revealed, secrets being revealed, okay? The corruption of the underworld being brought into the light, okay? So the fact that that was happening when all these other alignments were happening and the Supreme Court made that decision and set all this stuff in motion, no coincidence, okay? Absolutely no coincidence. Now, I did a video, I think it was called Trump Goes Bankrupt or something like that, and it's still on my channel. It's still, you know, right there on the front page, at the top of the page. You can go and watch that. And I said that by the end of 2021, Donald Trump would be bankrupt and alone. And, you know, it's what's coming for him. So let me show you what the alignments are going to do now moving forward. And you'll see why I'm making that prediction. So the next one I want to look at is, so the one I just looked at, Pluto was direct in opposition to his Venus. Now it's retrograde in opposition to his Venus. Okay. So let's see here. I could have said it a little bit earlier in the day. I just said it for the morning of July 11th, but basically earlier in the morning, it's at 25 degrees, 43 minutes, exactly opposite his Venus. So something's going to happen around this time, and it could get activated. A lot of times things get activated by full moons, sometimes new moons, sometimes Mercury retrograde, and sometimes eclipses. And we actually have a full moon eclipse on May 26th. And then we have a new moon eclipse with Mercury retrograde on June 10th. So sometimes eclipses will actually activate something a month in advance. So if it doesn't happen, well, something's going to happen with those eclipses. There's no doubt about that. But if you don't see it, like if it's not publicly revealed, then for sure a month later, at the July new moon, something's going to get activated, okay, around this time. There's no doubt about it. I'm just saying, you know, I'll try really hard to keep reminding you that you have to understand the way these things work. They're like a combination lock. So if all the planets line up in exactly the right way, it'll happen on that exact day, July 11th. But sometimes it needs another alignment to actually, you know, complete the combination lock. So that might be a new moon, that might be a full moon, that might be an eclipse, that might be Mercury retrograde or Mercury direct. Any of those kinds of things can activate the revelation, the unearthing that will come a second time when Pluto retrograde moves into exact opposition to Venus. So this is going to be an extremely difficult time for him, not just because Pluto is opposite his Venus, but also because of the fact that Saturn is alone in his 7th house in opposition to his Pluto. Okay. Saturn is restriction and limitation. Saturn, you know, some people don't like Saturn because Saturn can be a very difficult planet because it's a planet of restriction and limitation and hard work. And, you know, Saturn makes us work really hard because Saturn wants us to build a sense of character and self-discipline and wants us to learn how to work hard with those limitations. So, but sometimes it can feel really difficult. Certainly, when it's all by itself in your 7th house, you can sometimes feel very lonely. And it just depends on how you respond to it. And I'm saying that not just to help you to understand what's happening for Donald Trump around this time, but also for any of you who may be Leos out there, that means that you'll have Saturn by itself in your 7th house of long-term meaningful relationships. So understand this doesn't mean you have bad karma. It just means that people who are no longer meant to be in your life will leave your life. A lot of times relationships that have served their purpose, they've run their course, they're not really doing anything in your life anymore. They're not really that meaningful anymore. They'll kind of drift out of your life. Or if you're in a situation where there are boundary issues and the relationship is toxic, has never been very good, Saturn will absolutely end that relationship. So just understand that it's also trying to bring good things into your life if you are a Leo, and try not to be afraid of that it can clear out relationships that need to be cleared out. And then that opens up space for new relationships to come in. So it's not all about bad karma, but it's just the way things are when Saturn is the only planet in your 7th house. You will tend to experience more solitude. You will tend to experience more time alone. You will tend to experience a lot of people leaving your life during that year. Actually, it's going to be there for 2.5 years. The first year you'll have Jupiter there. That's why I said it would take some time before we could actually see this whole thing unfold, because of the fact that Jupiter is still in his 7th house, which means for Leo, Jupiter is still there in the 7th house in 2021. So that brings people in. So he's not going to be completely alone, except when Jupiter goes out of his 7th house, which will happen between May 13th and I believe the end of July. 11 weeks. Saturn will be there all by itself. Okay. And part of that time is when Pluto is in opposition to his Venus. Okay. So he's going to feel very, very alone, maybe even depressed. He's not going to be happy. So this is not a good time for him. Okay. So I showed you when Pluto was opposite his Venus direct on February 17th. Now this is retrograde on July 11th. And then I'll show you the final one when it's opposite his Venus again and direct again. So in other words, it opposes his Venus 3 times exactly because of the retrograde motion. So let's see. That's not what I'm looking for. Okay, I got them switched around. So let me fix that. Okay, so this is the final Pluto opposition to Venus. And I haven't looked at where Pluto is in the year 2022. I'm just assuming it's not going to come back to this degree. So this will be the last time it's in an exact opposition to his Venus. But the thing about it is, the other thing to understand, because again, some of you may have these kinds of alignments in your own charts and think that that means something terrible is going to happen. Something terrible only happens if you have karma that needs to be dealt with, like Trump does. If you've lived a good life, then you don't have to worry about it. So he has a lot to worry about with Pluto in opposition to his Venus. And it's not just the opposition, it's also the fact that Venus is in his 12th house. And the 12th house is the things that are hidden, the secrets. And so when Pluto is in opposition to his Venus, that means that the corruption is revealed, okay? It's revealed because it's activating a planet in his 12th house of things hidden and secrets. So the opposition of Pluto, which unearths the corruption, causes those secrets to be revealed, okay? So, but this is the worst of the 3. And so if you thought what happened on February 17th was bad, just wait. After we get through this whole year of Pluto in opposition to his Venus, By the time we get to the final one on December 25th, this is like pure nightmare for Trump, absolute pure nightmare. You can just see here in the alignments how horrible it is. Look at all that red, and this it's just horrible. Just look at that. But the other reason why it's so terrible for him is because, well, he's still got the T-square of the Saturn Uranus square opposite his Pluto, which, by the way, that also makes a square 3 times this year. And those are going to activate negatively in his chart as well. Okay. I can do another video where I look at that, or look at it on my Patreon channel. I only want to focus on Pluto opposite Venus in this video, so it doesn't get too long. But this is the worst one. And the reason why it's the worst one is because Venus goes retrograde over his Pluto at the very moment that they are exactly opposite his natal Venus. This is horrific. You know, Venus is normally considered a benefic planet, but over the years, over a decade that I've been a professional astrologer, there is one time when Venus she brings things that you do not want in your life. And that's when she's retrograde. And she is going to be retrograde. And I'm also going to need to do a video at some point. I'll wait until we get later in the year, because people have asked me about, is the stock market crashing? This is a minor blip. It'll recover what we're going through right now. But later in the year, it'll probably get kicked off for sure. We may see rumblings as early as late November, but for sure, I think by mid-December, we're going to see the stock market peak and then crash. And this will be a real crash. Okay. So you can keep that in mind. But that's possibly why he's suffering, is because he may lose a lot of money in the stock market, or the housing market, or real estate market, or it could be related to his personal finances. It could be related to these legal cases, could be related to Southern District of New York prosecuting him. Could be any of these cases. Okay. But the fact that Pluto is conjunct Venus retrograde, and Jupiter is leaving his 7th house for the final time, this is it. It all gets blown up. And it's all his fault too. He's the one who brings it to bear. And the reason I know that is because Jupiter is opposite his Mars and ascendant. And he's going to be the kind of person who is so righteous. He thinks he's right and everybody else is wrong, because he's always like that. And he's going to make sure everybody knows it. And he'll be left all alone and lonely and broke and bankrupt on Christmas Day 2021. He's going to be very, 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 very unhappy. And this is just the beginning of his unhappiness. This isn't the end of it. This is just the beginning of his unhappiness. Okay. So if you thought his life was difficult these past 4 years, no, the 2021 is going to be horrible for him. And it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And this isn't even the worst of the worst. Okay. So, yeah, he'll definitely end up bankrupt, alone. I think his wife may even divorce him. So, so it's not a pretty picture. So that's why I say he'll never be president again, because he just won't be able to recover. He won't be able to recover. He'll be buried in legal cases for the rest of his life. He'll be so financially depleted. And then if his wife leaves him, he'll have to get another wife so he can have a first lady. So, and I think if she leaves him, I think it'll be because he just won't have any money anymore. So why should she want to stay with him? That's the only reason she's with him. So, Yeah, so he'll never be president again for all those reasons, but also because he just won't be able to pull together the finances to be able to run for president again. That's why he'll never be president again. Okay, so now you know, broke, alone, bankrupt, possibly divorced, very sad. And I mean, what can I say? He created it. That's his legacy. He did it to himself. Okay, so that's it for today. And looks like I'm fading out here. All right. Oh, well, I better just say goodbye. And I'll see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.